Kalal Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, Ba'Shem Rakakwadash. Double honors unto the elders and the apostles who taught me this truth. This is your brother Dawad, the real brother beloved, and this is only for the elect.
Countries are reacting in different ways as to how best to manage the overwhelming amounts of dis and misinformation circulating over the internet. In some cases, limited internet shutdowns are being implemented to quell panic.
How much control of information should there be, and by whom? And how can false information be effectively challenged? And what if that false information is coming from companies or from governments?
I think it's very important that we make sure that there is concise communication with all healthcare facilities where these patients are being treated so that there isn't mass panic.
We're at a moment where the social media platforms have to step forward and recognize the moment to assert that they're a technology platform and not a broadcaster is over. They, in fact, have to be a participant in broadcasting accurate information and partnering with the scientific and health communities to counterweight, if not flood the zone of accurate information, because to try to put the genie back in the bottle of the misinformation and disinformation is nigh impossible.
One thing we haven't spoken about, and I'm wondering whether it's time to talk about this, is a step up from the part of the governments on enforcement actions against fake news.
I personally do not believe that trying to shut things down in terms of information is either practical or desirable. And we do have, I think, a couple of strategies that are available to us, one of which is the flood strategy, second of which is relying and informing and equipping trusted sources of information with the facts so they can then pass that on. But we also need to actually think about a technological answer to this.
Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Be ye therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves.
Shalom, Yasharala. Just wanted to do a quick video to catch you up to speed, if you weren't already, on the current state of affairs since Operation Shutdown. For those who haven't seen it, Elder Apostle Gabar did a lesson regarding the hidden meaning behind the word COVID, and so I wanted to follow up, not so much on the idea that persecution for bringing out this truth is coming, which the persecution in sharing this knowledge has already been out, all the scoffers and naysayers on the comment boards, but more from the standpoint that because we are sent out as sheep, we are to be wise to the language of deception, so to speak, employed by Esau. One way is to unlock and decipher the code he uses in his coded messaging, starting with sifting through some of the everyday terminology being associated with the coronavirus, the outbreak, and pandemic. I myself had a tough time in finding the exact origin of the definition COVID-19. I mean, when the statement originally came out, I guess I missed it. And, why it was being used to reference the novel coronavirus, Salakia. Interestingly enough, I discovered the assertion held by many on various platforms that articles surrounding what has affectionately come to be known as the Ronavirus were being blocked was in fact true. And not just on social media by Mark Zuckerberg and his cohorts. I did remember it was a precaution that was discussed during Event 201, the pandemic tabletop exercise hosted by Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security in partnership with the World Economic Forum and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which is why it became the intro of this commentary. This alone should be an indicator as to who controls the flow of information regarding the outbreak. Pardon the play on words if you didn't catch it, if you missed it. Your first instinct should be to look to the purveyor of the official narrative. Incidentally, Bill Gates recently stepped down as CEO from Microsoft, which is not the first time, but it makes you wonder when almost 1,160 CEOs to be exact, left their positions during the first 3 quarters of 2019, MasterCard, Disney, IBM, Uber, McDonald's, Tinder, OkCupid, Victoria's Secret, T-Mobile, LinkedIn, as well as several cannabis companies reported their chief executive officers would be stepping down in the near future or have already relinquished their positions. Over 160 tech companies seeing the second biggest exodus. The most agreed upon conclusion is the elite are attempting to sink the global economy and bring about a one world digitized economy pursuant to total control and rule under a new world order. This is 1 Maccabees chapter 1 verse 10, and it reads, "And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been a hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks." Now, the wicked root is in fact the lineage of the so-called royal family who claim their heritage through Charlotte Sophia, an Israelite, a so-called black woman, which is going off considering the root or seed is determined through the man. The them is the Greeks who had conquered the Medo-Persian Empire, who themselves had conquered the ancient kingdom of Babylon. The Grecians spoken of here are nothing more than the house of Esau Edom, the Edomites who we know begat the Roman Empire, in which the Spaniards, Germans, the French, the Brits, etc. came out of, which eventually gave birth to present-day Babylon the Great, which we know today is the unified states of America. So Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greeks, Greco-Roman, pagan Roman Empire, the rebirth of Rome being NATO, which houses America, as well as the EU nations. Let's jump down to verse 41, and it reads, "Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom. By now they had conquered the world over, as well as Jerusalem, specifically the Israelites, in which many were victim of the Hellenization, that all should be one people." What does that sound like? Verse 42, "And everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath." No different from what's happening today. The other nations, tipsy from the wine of America's spiritual wickedness and violence against the saints of the Most High, the drug and stripper culture, all manners of evil predominantly being performed by Israelites who have yet to consider the laws, some willingly transgressing against the Most High power, consenting to Esau's main and major religion, which is not Catholicism, it's capitalism. I'm sure you see it for yourselves. Jake quick to make a sacrifice for money, cars, clothes, and fast women. Esau himself breaks his own laws in order to support the justice system and the prison industrial complex, another one of his money-making schemes. Falsely accusing, convicting, and killing Israelite men at will. He profanes the Shabbat and Yahweh's observances by setting up his own holy days, now called holidays, which further fuels, supports, and strengthens his hold through his religion. The language that everybody's speaking today, besides confusion, is money, which in itself is a sense of confusion. I mean, what exactly is the dollar backed by? If you say petrol, I'm forced to agree with you because it really is gas. Anyways, whoever controls the printing press controls the people. As you can see, out of control is making paper money digital in a system that you are forced to become dependent on by being implanted with the microchip. Now, the Greco-Roman rulership was actually the second more lasting attempt at a new world order, the first being Genesis chapter 11, 1 through 9, under the rulership of the infamous Nimrod. The city itself an example and symbol of religious Babylon, which today is indicative of the same utter confusion, right? I mean, here in the westernized world, you're allowed to be this and still practice that, alongside those who were forced to agree with your wayward lifestyle, often impeding on their sense of morality, all under the shadow of a rainbow-colored umbrella, which incidentally has a friggin' hole in it. This guise of religious and moral freedom are the spirit of America's vain philosophies, vain because they are adverse to the Most High power, and in all reality, they really don't exist. The tower being an example and symbol of political Babylon, the New World Order, 1,000 pardons for the rant/history lesson, but it was necessary as it laid foundation to the idea that from then to present day, our experience is constantly being subjected to these instances of Babylon's confusion via the ultimate spin master himself, Esau Edom. Throughout it, he reveals the truth, especially when he lies. If you're paying attention, you'll catch it. You just got to be able to unlock the bullish. Which leads to the first question. How many of you knew that COVID-19 is the actual name of the disease and not the virus itself? It was the World Health Organization, which for those not in the loop is a political creation of the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds, the elite banking families, to control information about health on a global level, obviously including Big Pharma as well, that had officially given the coronavirus its English name, calling the disease COVID-19. The name designation refers to COVID for the acronym of coronavirus, D for the word disease, and 19 for the year of the outbreak. While looking for the definition, though, I bumped into this article. Bring it up on the left here. They suggest that COVID-19, as you can see, means, well, the C means Abaddon, the angel of the bottomless pit, pursuant to the Strong's Concordance. Ovid, which we've already gotten that understanding from the other apostle, and 19, slaughter, also pursuant to the Strong's Concordance. Now, how they arrived at using the Strong's as an indicator seems like it seems like a small reach, in my opinion, but I'll leave that up to you to decide. I mean, to keep it basic, C could easily stand for coronavirus. If I was gonna reach, I would suggest C simply means to understand, esoterically to see. I will say that usually the culprits like to sign their handiwork, so maybe it's not that far-fetched. Let's balance it out and get some scripture. This is Revelation chapter 9, verse 11. How about that? And it reads, "And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon." Now, both Abaddon and Apollyon mean destruction. This ties into the man of perdition, perdition meaning destruction, or the man of sin revealed, Esau, Edom, Idumean, Idumea himself. Today he is known as the Rothschilds, Bloombergs, the DuPonts, the Rockefellers. Pursuant to 2 Thessalonians 2 and 3, all his wickedness has been revealed, his blessing being the sword. This scripture also ties into Revelation 6 and 4. To be honest, this is not a bad reach after all. In any event, considering Ovid is derived from the Latin name Ovidius, itself derived from the Latin word ovis, which means sheep, as again alluded to by the elder, was far more, for me anyways, digestible considering Salakia, the many inferences made to this herd mentality, the powers that shouldn't be have alluded to on many occasions throughout the years. If you research for yourself, I'm sure you'll draw the same conclusion. Considering the handling of this present outbreak alone, we are nothing more than sheeple to the elite, an amalgamation of useful idiots and useless eaters to be poked, prodded, and experimented on. What comes to mind here are the lost sheep and those of the fold sent out into the world. This is Matthew 15. I'll start at 21. Then Yahushua went thence and departed into the coasts of Tyre and Sidon. And behold, the woman of Canaan came out of the same coast and cried unto him, saying, Have mercy on me, O Lord, thou son of David. My daughter is grievously vexed with the devil. But he answered her not a word, and his disciples came and besought him, saying, Send her away, for she crieth after us. But he answered and said, I am not sent but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Again, this is Matthew 10 and 16. Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Be ye therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Always remember, the elite's focus is Israel. Anything else is a bonus. To be honest, I wasn't too preoccupied with C and what it could symbolize. I was more transfixed on 19 for reasons I'll explain in a minute. Anywho, I went right to the Hebrew and focused on the English translation. 19 in the Hebrew is the Sai Sharar, the Sai Saw. Those a little more skilled in the reading of numerals in the Lashawan Kadash can help me out in its pronunciation. Basically, 10 added to 9 equaling 19. So the meanings of 10 and 9 factor into the interpretation and the translation. From what I was able to find through research, the number itself is equated with divine order, judgment, truth revealed or concealed. 19 is the 8th prime number, which also indicates links to the number 8. Interestingly enough, when you compound 19 by adding 1 and 9, you arrive at 10. We could stay with the Hebrew translation, which would equate to tithe, translating to a tenth or 10%. Therefore, 10 represents a complete congregation, body, or kingdom, good or evil. What instantly comes to mind is the historical account of the 10 primitive persecutions under the 10 heathen emperors of Rome. We could go to, matter of fact, this is the Revelation 2 and 10. And it reads, "Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried, and ye shall have tribulation 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life." That itself speaks volumes considering the times we're in, and times ahead is prophesied regarding the ensuing trouble. A body of the hopeful elect detained, awaiting deliverance. Some even martyred in the process is a more than likely scenario. Esoterically, we know 10% refers to those who know the truth of who Israel is, but conceals it. If I were to go with the idea that the quoted wording signified slaughter, I would go to Psalms 44, verse 22, and it reads, "Yea, for thy sake are we killed all the day long. We are counted as sheep for the slaughter." Reiterated by Apostle Paul in Romans, the 8th chapter. What I am convinced of is the use of Ovid. This is why the MSM reported the Pope, who is the religious leader of the sheeple, as one of the first celebrities who may have contracted the coronavirus after maintaining he had fallen ill. Moving along. Last month I had uploaded a video regarding the translation of COVID into Hebrew. Great minds think alike, or the Spirit speaks through who it wills, because I had honestly discovered it on my own. The elders teach not to be lazy, look into words and their meanings, as opposed to being spoon-fed. In doing so, I came across a truth tuber who made the same discovery as I, so in expedience, I just shared his video. In any event, let me play it for you.
I just came across something that other people have discovered. I heard this on I saw this posted as a comment on one of TMF's videos, so I went to check it out myself. So we're going to check this out together, and we're going to show you something that, whoa, wait till you see this. So I'm got Google Translate here. You can do this yourself, and I'm going to put in here COVID and get the translation. So this is the Hebrew translation here. Okay. Now let's just put that translation here. And we'll put it to English. Kobe. So COVID-19 translates into Hebrew as Kobe, as in Kobe Bryant. The whole world is a stage, folks.
So according to Amalek, Kobe in the Hebrew is said to be a nickname for Jacob. Its main usage, German. Incidentally, the coronavirus was unleashed under the rulership of the Germans, the royals who govern Britain, which is why I travel through Heathrow. The epicenter for UK travel is still not close to the US, and the German, the Donald Senior Trump, the string puppet and face of American leadership. Let's continue. The probability of what C stands for, the etymology of corona, reads as such. Corona, 1650s, a crown, from Latin corona, a garland. In ancient Rome especially, a crown or garland bestowed for distinguished military service. To turn, bend. As I've stated before, this is definitely the rollout of a military operation, target the world populace, and since the elite practice duality, you can see a crowning coming into play on both ends of the spectrum. This is Mark 15, verse 16, and it reads, "And the soldiers led him away into the hall called Praetorium." The Praetorium is the governor's courtroom or hall of judgment. "And they called together the whole band. And they clothed him with purple and plaited a crown of thorns and put it about his head, and began to salute him, 'Hail, King of the Jews!' And they smote him on the head with a reed, and did spit upon him, and bowing their knees, worshipped him. And when they had mocked him, they took off the purple from him, and put his own clothes on him, and led him out to crucify him." Now, if Ovid represents sheep, and Corona translates as crown, and we are in the land in which the image and likeness of Yahushua was crucified, pursuant to Revelations 11 and 8, this rollout by the elite to bring about the New World Order is a play on the biblical crowning of our Lord, hands down. Since they birthed the plot to form a one-world government, the elite have always made sure to make inferences which escape the profane, meaning those outside of the temple, but always seem to point back to the scriptures. The focus is not the sheeple who they know go willingly to be slaughtered and allow themselves to be immuned and chipped. The focus is always being you Israelites, preferably the men of the Lord, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua. We are those men who the scriptures bid to persevere so that we may receive an eternal crown. This is Revelation chapter 3, verse 10, and it reads, "Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world, to try them that dwell upon the earth." And that's exactly what's coming down the turnpike, ladies and gentlemen. Every eligible living soul on the face of the earth is going to be tested in regards to the acceptance of the RFID microchip. Verse 11, "Behold, I come quickly. Hold that fast which thou hast, that no man take thy crown," meaning only the elect of Israel, those in this truth who preach it and teach it worldwide, and ultimately those who Yahweh deems worthy and finds favor in, all enduring to the end shall be saved. I did a lesson called Follow the Money Through the Spirit for those who had eyes to see. I gave the understanding of the elite's intention surrounding the coronavirus using the infamous American dollar bill, which should have been a go-to considering this is Trump's 9/11. Reading Latin in New Rome by now should be pretty basic and straightforward anyways. I've seen a couple brothers get it and break it down. I'm sure by now it's spread like wildfire, but, you know, all praises to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua. That's all I'm going to say on that. As I just read from the etymology dictionary and the definition I make a point to reiterate for obvious reasons, the corona or crown is bestowed for distinguished military service. So should you be surprised at seeing tanks or military personnel rolling through your neighborhood? The New World Order is a waging of war on humanity, small and great, rich or poor, free or bond. A war involving propaganda and military might. What else do you expect desperate men to do? Yeah, Snapple. And I know Jake in that video was caught off guard, but I just found humor in his surprise, you know, when you least expect it. In any event, moving on. Next word on the menu is virus. Late 14th century, poisonous substance, from Latin, virus, sap of plants, slimy liquid, a potent juice. The part of the definition I want to place focus is here. Source also of Sanskrit, visum, venom, poison. Who's responsible for pumping more poison than Esau? This is Psalm 140, verse 3, and it reads, They being Esau, Edom, have sharpened their tongues like a serpent. Adder's poison is under their lips. Salah. That poison is in reference to the lies and propaganda pursuant to this corona hoax Esau via the WHO, mainstream media, government officials, your favorite celebrities, etc., is spewing to beguile the masses. The death toll is nowhere near Spanish flu numbers, much less the numbers we see annually regarding a death due to influenza. But fear perpetuates rash decisions, and now you have middle-aged ladies basically clotheslining disabled children for toilet paper. It's ridiculous. This is Psalms 58, verse 3, and it reads, "The wicked, who again is Esau Edom, pursuant to Job 9 and 24, are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. Their poison is like the poison of a serpent. They are like the deaf adder that stoppeth her ear." Edom, as well as the two-thirds alike. No matter how long we've been preaching this truth and preparing Israel for days to come, like those that we're in now, neither will listen to sound doctrine and would rather suck confusion through a straw. Speaking of Esau, their every breath from since time immemorial has been a lie. Ye will be like gods, ye shall not die. There is no God. We are the chosen people, and this is our land. There is a God, and he wants you to be rich. Ask your doctor about free flu shots. It never ends with Serpentor and his minions. Another term we've heard quite a bit of moving on is quarantine.